This right next to me is the all-new KGM SsangYong Torres, and it is a full-size medium SUV, and this is priced from just over $37,000 drive away, which makes it a lot cheaper in comparison to other medium SUVs on sale, because everything is just getting very expensive. But are there any compromises with this package? Well, in this full detailed review, I'm going to cover everything you need to know, and also talk about some of the things that could be a bit better. And of course, before we start, please like, share, subscribe. Let's get straight into the video. Let's start off with a brief overview about the Torres. So this is available in 3 different model grades. The first 2 are front wheel drive and the top spec is all wheel drive, and this is priced from just over $37,000 climbing past $46,000 drive away, which I think is exceptional value considering that most mainstream rivals like the Toyota RAV4 hybrid, the Kia Sportage and the Hyundai Tucson start from around $42,000 in their lower spec trim. And the one I'm featuring in the review is the mid-spec Adventurer, which I think is the sweet spot in the range. And in terms of optional extras, the Torres is available in 5 different external colours. White is no cost option, and the others will set you back an additional fee. Okay, moving on to the design. So in terms of some of the key features, this is equipped with full automatic LED headlights along with LED DRLs, and this mid-spec version as well as the top grade comes also equipped with LED fog lights, and in addition to that, on the lower section, some additional silver cladding. You could definitely say this looks rugged, so sharp it's decided to murder this innocent bee. And now moving towards the side view, so this model grade is sitting on 18-inch diamond cut alloy wheels and complemented by black plastic trim along the wheel arches and on the lower sections, so continuing the rugged design theme. And in addition to other key features, we've got these hooks on top of the bonnet and as well as this curve on top of the roof line complemented by this blade. So yeah, very interesting design theme and very SsangYong, well, as I should say KGM. And in addition to that, roof rails up the top there, and on the third quarter, privacy glass. And now moving towards the rear design of the KGM Torres. So from the back, we've got full LED tail lights, and on the lower section, more of that plastic trim along with the silver cladding. And if we have a look at the tailgate, from what we can see, there is a bit of a bulge to signify that there is a spare tyre, like most medium SUVs from the 90s and 2000s. But in fact, that is underneath the boot floor, and it definitely looks different amongst other mainstream rivals. But of course, let me know your feedback of what you think of the overall design in the comment section down below. But for now, I'm going to move on to the cabin. Okay, moving on to the cabin. So before you climb inside, this receives a remote key, keyless entry and push power start. Now, if we start off with the presentation inside, it certainly doesn't look budget friendly, and there are also some nice touches such as the bronze finish across the dash, and that also extends onto this floating console design. And all model grades receive a leather wrap steering wheel that feels very good to grip onto. However, it does come across a bit large for a car of this size. And if we move on to touch points on the top surface, that is nice and soft, but it does start to get a bit durable, especially when you look lower down. And on the doors, just scratchy plastic, and it's very uncomfortable to rest your elbow, even though the section there is soft padded. And the piano black trim does show a lot of dust even across the steering wheel as well. But I guess that is something you should accept, especially for the price tag. And I think overall it is okay for the segment. And this of course being the mid-spec opposed to fabric seats, this model variant comes equipped with synthetic leather, and they both also can be heated. And on top of that, you get a heated steering wheel. There is also inbuilt climate control within the infotainment and manual seat adjustment, whereas if you step up to the ultimate, you get power seat adjustment, lumbar support, ventilated seats and a power sunroof. And if we now move on to technology, it all runs off this 12.3-inch touchscreen, which does not entail physical buttons, so instead you've got buttons on the steering wheel for your volume. But in terms of operation, you've got menus across the side, and as well as a dedicated climate panel on the right hand side, and swiping down towards the top, that is where you're going to access all of the driving modes. And in terms of key features, this is equipped with AM and FM radio, no DAB radio, but you still have Bluetooth, USB, and as well as a 6-speaker sound system. And you've also got the ability to enable your smartphone for voice control, and on top of that you've also got Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which are both wired, and this is what that looks like on the screen. And in terms of driving modes, you can pull up the top section where you can change it from winter to sport. You've also got a hill descent control as well. And if we now move on to the 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster, on the left hand side your fuel range, and on the right hand side your speed, and you can cycle through menus looking at fuel consumption, driver assistance, navigation and media functions, but overall the system itself isn't really that configurable. And if we now move on to safety, this receives a reversing camera with front and rear parking sensors, and in addition to that we've also got autonomous emergency braking. There is also active lane assist and a lane centering system where this car has the ability to steer itself within its lane, and as well as blind spot monitoring, and on the bottom here standard cruise control, whereas if you step up to the top spec Ultimate you get adaptive cruise control and as well as a 360-degree camera. And finally, practicality. So you've got decent door bin storage across the doors. You've also got a decent sized glove box as well. And looking towards the center, a section here for a mobile phone with 2 USB-C charging ports and a 12-volt socket. And underneath the floating console, you've got some underfloor space. There is also a spot there for a mobile phone and 2 small cup holders. And finally, looking towards the center, decent storage down below. Okay, moving on to the second row. So this front row seat is set in my driving position, and I've got decent knee room, toe room, and as well as heaps of headroom as well. But it is worth pointing out that in comparison to rivals such as the RAV4, the second row seats are fixed into place, but they are slightly reclined, so you can get comfortable back here. And in addition to other key features, we've got directional air vents along with 2 USB-C charging ports, a spot there for a phone, and behind here rear map pockets with device holders in the center as well. There's also decent door bin storage, however you do have more of that hard plastic, so that might come across a bit uncomfortable on a long distance journey. There are also 2 small cup holders on the flip down armrests, and finally on the 2 outboard seats ISOFIX points, and right behind me 3 top tether points. Okay, moving on to the boot space. So as you can see, there is a handle here to improvise that this has a side swinging tailgate, but in fact when you press the button it opens and closes like a normal tailgate, and of course it is power operated like it is across the range, which means all models receive a power operated tailgate. And as you can see, if we have a look inside, there is 465 litres of boot capacity, which is overall pretty spacious, but not as spacious in comparison to a Toyota RAV4. And you can expand the capacity by dropping down the second row seats, and they do fold down into a 60-40 split. And if we have a look around, additional side slots on either side of the boot floor, and you've also got a 12-volt socket, LED lighting, and a couple of tie-down hooks. And there is also a flat load bay, which means it is easy to load items into the back. And if I open up this section, all model grades of the Taurus receive a space saver spare tyre, and there is also a cutaway section for the parcel cover. If you don't need it blocking your way, you don't have to leave it in the garage, you can quite easily store it safely so it doesn't go missing. Let's now move on to the powertrain. So under the bonnet features a 1.5 litre 4-cylinder turbocharged petrol engine producing 120 kilowatts and 280 newton meters of torque, and all this is paired to a 6-speed automatic transmission, and power is sent to the front wheels for this mid-spec and the entry level, whereas on the top specification that will come equipped with all-wheel drive. And if we now move on to ownership, KGM SsangYong offers a 7-year unlimited kilometre warranty, and as well as 7 years of roadside assistance. And for the servicing, it is every 12 months or 15,000 kilometres, and each visit to the service centre will set you back $382 per visit. Okay, moving on to the driving impressions. So at the front, you've got great visibility, and you do feel like you're in a proper 4-wheel drive thanks to that high riding bonnet. And if we move on to side vision, that's also pretty good. Decent size, chunky wing mirrors, and from the back, decent visibility. However, towards the C-pillar, there is a bit of a blind spot thanks to that side blade, but overall the reversing camera is quite clear. But it is worth pointing out that the 360 camera only comes in the top specification model. And moving on to the gear selector, this is a shift-by-wire, which most manufacturers use these days, but sometimes you've really got to make sure you've engaged the gear because you'll go into neutral. So that is just something worth pointing out. Okay, so acceleration tests. Foot down. 40, 60, and 100. So yeah, definitely not the best in the segment. and the gearbox responds like it should. It isn't a complicated dual clutch system like on some of the Kia or Hyundai models. And if we move on to refinement, as you can see, the suspension has been set up to be very soft. I've been in it for over an hour driving down to the Southern Highlands, and I don't really hear any wind noise, especially at speeds from 110 kilometers. There is a little bit of road noise from those tyres. And if we now move on to driver assistance, the cruise control can be a bit fiddly to set up at times, and the lane centering isn't the best. Yeah, and it does interfere a lot, especially that lane keeping assist, which you can turn off with this button on the steering wheel. But yes, in terms of driving aids, there are better cars in the segment that do a better job at engineering this technology. And in terms of fuel consumption, SsangYong claims this should be able to achieve 7.2 litres per 100 and just under 8 litres for the all-wheel drive version. I've managed to achieve around 9 litres per 100, and I think that is relatively okay, certainly not the best. And on the freeway, it should drop down to around 7 litres per 100. You've also got two different driving modes to choose from. So winter, which is the mode I've been driving around in, and sport, which is a bit more reactive and a bit more punchier in terms of how the car responds. So with my driving impressions out of the way, let's now wrap up with a verdict. So what is my final verdict on the SsangYong Torres? Well, in terms of where it fits in within the segment, it is relatively spacious, comfortable, and comes with a decent amount of equipment. And yes, like I mentioned throughout the video, there are some compromises that other brands do better, but I still think this is a very good alternative to consider if you are on a budget. And in terms of what I would choose, I would definitely go for this mid-spec model. But of course, let me know what you think of my verdict down in the comment section below. And if you haven't already, please share, like, subscribe, and hit the bell to receive notifications every time I upload a new car review. But for now, I will see you in the next film. Thanks for watching.